Hey, Shalom. Call Lo Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim HaKadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives to do so. To the scattered hopeful elect across the four corners of the earth, and those among the heathen nations that look like the heathen nations, pursuant to Jeremiah 12:9, known as the speckled birds. This is not a black thing, nor do we teach that it's the black thing. Okay? The Spirit bears witness with our spirit, then that person can be an Israelite, right? For we know that we were scattered among the other nations, right? And they may look like the other nations. So with that said, I am disciple of Parium, a follower of Great Millstone, coming to you with a lesson in truth and sincerity. So this lesson is going to go into physical brokenness and spiritual dependence. So just this past week, we had this so-called, what looked like to be a so-called Edomite in a wheelchair, and he didn't have any legs, right? So that's why, hence to have that Lieutenant Dan picture, for your older school people from Forrest Gump, But anyway, he rode up. He obviously was very homeless, smelled, but he stayed and he listened. He probably never even heard a sermon like that, and we just happened to be talking about going into like upgraded bodies or upgraded estate, and even being able to do miracles in those days. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of go into some parallels and how it was kind of a dual meaning of the estate of Babylon and that it's in, but also the estate of this guy in the wheelchair and what it could insinuate or mean within the scriptures. So with that said, I pray this lesson is edifying, and let's hit it up. So first, I want to go to the odor of the fallen world, right? So throughout scriptures, you have putrid smells. They often symbolize the corruption of sin, spiritual deadness, or the human aversion to unrighteousness. And you definitely see that here in Babylon, right? So let's go to Amos 9:8. It says, "Behold, the eyes of the Lord Yahweh are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord." Okay, now I want to go to Isaiah chapter 42 and 13. And it reads, "The Lord Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man, and he shall stir up jealously, just like a man of war. He shall cry, yea, roar, and he shall prevail against his enemies." All right, and you're starting to see that. You're starting to see the vintage is failing from off this place, right? So let's go to spiritual equalizer. Spiritually, the Bible notes that all of humanity carries a repulsive stench of sin and imperfection. It says, "Power's grace and Hamashiach is the ultimate cleanser for this condition." The physical odor of a man serves as a symbolic reminder of mankind's need for spiritual washing and redemption. And we know these things that are coming to pass, and we kind of foresee them through the scripture, right? And we're able to parallel them with what's happening today, and also within the future, and parallel it together. And really, people are freaking out because they don't understand what's happening. But really deep down, the prophets and the men of GMS, so we rejoice, right? So let's go to 2 Peter 3 and 13. It says, "Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness." All right. So we are in this estate because, not because, well, let's get it. Baruch 4 and 5. Salaki. So this is Baruch 4 and 5, and it reads, "Be of good cheer, my people, the memorial of Israel." You know what? I think it says, "You were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because ye moved power to wrath. You were delivered unto the enemies. And are we not in the land of our captivities to this day?" We fit, the curses in Deuteronomy 28, right? So it says, this is Brute 4 and 7, "For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to power." Okay? So let's go to Brute 3, starting in verse 11. It says, "That thou art counted with them that go down into the grave. It says, thou hast forsaken the fountain of wisdom. For if thou hadst walked in the way of power, thou shouldest have dwelt in peace forever." It says, "Learn where is wisdom, where is strength, where is understanding, that thou mayest know all where is length of days and life, where is the light of the eyes and peace." So we're going from physically being broken and spiritually, mentally, right? But right now, you see that these sinews are coming back within the bones, right? And we're becoming spiritually dependent, which is a good thing. We're starting to wake up from that dead state that's spoken of in Ezekiel, I believe, the 38th chapter, I believe. So it says the helplessness of the lame. It says in the Bible, missing legs or the state of being lame symbolizes utter dependency because he lacks mobility and standard physical tools. He is completely reliant on the mercy of others. So let's go to Philippians 3. Oh, Salaki. Verse 20 and 21, and it reads, "For our conversation is in heaven, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach." Verse 21, "Who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things unto himself." So this is called the paradox of strength. It says, although physically powerless, such figures in scriptures often symbolize the reality that human weakness allows the grace of power to shine. It says the inability to walk on one's own mirrors the biblical truth that humans cannot save themselves through their own efforts and must rely entirely on God, on power. So let's go to Zechariah 12, verse 7 and 8, and it reads, "The Lord Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David." Right? And what David was a mighty man. It says, "In the house of David shall be as power as the angel of the Lord before them." All right? We know the accomplishments of David, of what he did, and how he fought off a lion as he was as a shepherd, as a child. And obviously we know about Goliath. All right. So now let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras. verse 27 to 28. It says, "Be not weary, for when the day of trouble and heaviness cometh, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance." All right, just like we said before, I mean, we see these things that are happening. We obviously, we're still going to continue to live in this life and be a positive influence within our society, but we know that these things are happening, so it's a cheerful joy. Verse 28, it says, "The heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, saith the Lord." Right? Imagine, they can't even try to hurt you. They're gonna want to, but they can't. You know, because we're gonna be in the upgraded state. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 15 and 40. And it reads, "There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another." All right. So we know that, again, going to the upgraded state. Let's go to, if you go down a little bit, we go into the mystery of resurrection. It says, "Now this I say, brethren, that the flesh," this is verse 1 Corinthians 15 and 50. "Now this I say, brethren, the flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of power, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in a twinkling of the eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must be put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality." And so right here it says, verse 54, 1 Corinthians 15 and 54 says, "So when the corruptible shall be put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is the grave? O death," Slaki, he says, "O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory?" All right. So, it just kind of reminds me of also of that movie, Shawshank Redemption, where, he's crawling through all that crap, he's leaving all this stuff behind in the world, and he comes out and, he's free. He strove the whole time, and we shall strive unto death to receive, the new heavens, right? So with that, who knows? That guy could have been also an angel, made unaware, and and everybody was focused on his smell, but it was weird. I wasn't really focused on his smell, and I mean, obviously his presence, but I was kind of focused on the duality of meaning of him being there. If that makes sense. But anyways, I pray this lesson was edifying. Shalom, Kwam Yashrala, and the Baba Ba. On to the next.